Hello everyone and welcome again to another one of my videos. Today I would like to talk... Hey, what's that? Has anyone else noticed something like this? There's a new button on the software here. What does that do if I press it? Let's have a look. Hello? Oh, hello indeed. There you go, that's what it does. Welcome to my setup. This is how I'm going to be doing my videos from now on, and I like it. I like this setup, it looks cool, I think. Got my little signs in the background, got my TV. I'm just going to go straight jump in. We're going to do my videos as I normally would, but from now on, you get to see my lovely mug. Okay, so the thing I want to talk about today is trends I'm worried about in the gaming industry. We've all seen stuff recently in gaming that has bothered us. Something that has made us feel off. We all know that feeling. It's that funny feeling you get when you see a game mechanic that just seems a little predatory or a little bit addictive. And it rubs you the wrong way, and it makes you worried about the future of gaming. Where is the end goal of these developers and publishers? Where's the end game of this? What are they trying to achieve? And it makes you worried generally about the future of gaming. It makes me worried, certainly, which is why I want to make this video. I've identified six trends that I think are important and I'm worried about. And I want to talk about them so that you too can have the knowledge to at least identify them and also then criticise them and discuss them with a bit of a better knowledge base to work on. Okay, so binary or non-consequential morality. Now, what I mean by this is that in a lot of modern games, morality is just two choices. You are a saint, sent to do all the good things, or a ne'er-do-well, sent to do all the horrible stuff. And a lot of the time, the consequences are completely non-consequential. Like, there are no consequences. There are no ramifications for the choices you make in these games. Now, a great example of this would be Infamous, particularly Infamous Second Son, where you can be good or bad, but that's basically it. And there is effectively no difference. Your character still plays exactly the same, still does exactly the same things. And a good example, actually, of having consequences but having binary morality is Fallout 3, which does have the binary choices. You know, you're either good or bad, but at least there are consequences. So, spoiler for a 14-year-old game here, but when you blow up the town of Megaton, there are genuine consequences for that. Like, there are, other people treat you differently, particularly in Tenpenny Tower and some of the quests that go down within that region. But another good game that exemplifies this is Horizon Zero Dawn, which I love that game. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Horizon Zero Dawn. But your three choices, every time you get a choice, don't matter at all. The story plays out identically. And honestly, whilst it helps to inform the character, it's frustrating to me. That's what I feel. It's just frustrating. Why can't we go back to the old games like Morrowind or some of the Fallout games before they came under Bethesda's purview? In that, morality was a lot more nuanced back then. You could be head of an Assassin's Guild, which is obviously not great, but then you could also be head of, a Knight's Order or something that is actually on the good side, and you were much more nuanced in your character. It made the characters feel so much more real, and the world real, because you could actually influence what was going on, and I like that. I do like that, and I'm worried again about what the end goal of this trend is. On to the next one, though. Right, open world madness. What do I mean by this? Right, well, we've all noticed that almost every game seems to be open world these days. Everything has to be open world. Now, I will be the first to go on record and admit I love a good open world game. I actually did a video about this, my top 5 favourite open world games. I'll put a link into the corner now. It was the first video I ever made, so please be nice with me. Like, it's not a very good video. Actually, you know what? I've changed my mind. Don't go watch it. It's fine. Let's carry on. So, my actual problem with this is when the open world nature and structure is applied to games where it's not relevant, or sometimes genres where it's not really relevant, or certainly doesn't help, at least. A great example of this would be Final Fantasy 15, which, fantastic game, I absolutely loved it, particularly the story. However, my favourite bit is after Chapter 8, when the story really picks up, because the entire game becomes much more linear and they get rid of that open world nature. And that's what they should have done. Because the problem is, when you have an open world game like that, it's hard to balance a story with any urgency. Some games balance it perfectly, like Skyrim. But for Final Fantasy 15, it really didn't work, because there were no side quests to speak of. There were, but most of them were kind of dull, or they were fetch quests. So I feel that game just would have been better had it been more linear. Okay, so a bigger problem, and arguably the more important one, is people making open world games because they're in vogue and they want to sell their games, but then leaving the games empty, completely empty, which results in you simply having a boring overworld and then these quest hubs scattered around everywhere. Now, some great examples of this would be Fallout 76, vanilla No Man's Sky. It has got better, and I haven't played the updated version yet, which I need to get on that. And once again, Infamous Second Son. There's some great examples of everyone's got this race to have the biggest map, and I'm not sure it's the best way to do things, particularly for certain games and genres. So I'm hoping that they'll start scaling back on that, and we'll get back to some more linear gameplay, with admittedly some choices. That's nice. I'm just concerned that this trend is going to start affecting games where it's not necessary. Software as a service, or live service games. Now, these are games such as Fortnite, or Destiny, or World of Warcraft. Now, these are actually great examples because all three of them make money in slightly different ways. So, firstly, with Fortnite, it's microtransactions, people buying cosmetics and whatnot. With Destiny, it's regular updates plus microtransactions. And then with World of Warcraft, it is paid monthly subscriptions plus regular expansions. Now, I understand that these companies have to make money. These are live service games, and particularly with games like Fortnite or Destiny, to a degree, they're free to play as well. My concern, as somebody who has played Destiny since vanilla D1 to all the way to Destiny 2, the Shadowkeeper expansion, I gave Bungie a lot of my money, is that you have to keep playing. So Destiny's a great example, so is World of Warcraft. If you stop at any point, it becomes almost impossible to keep playing. You have to constantly buy the new DLC and the new expansion just to keep up. So you end up in a situation where if you enjoy playing these games, you have to keep shelling out. And on a side note, part of the problem from what I've seen amongst many games is that actually a lot of these expansions over time keep getting worse and worse and keep having less and less content in them. Anyway, eventually you've ended up giving so much money to these companies just to keep playing your game that you feel like you have to keep playing. Because at this point, several years down the line, you've dunked hundreds of pounds or dollars into this. It's called the sunk cost fallacy, that because you've put so much money into it, well, you'd better keep going because otherwise you're not getting your value. And to keep going, you have to keep putting more money in. But sometimes I believe that it can often really verge on predatory, and I don't like it. I don't like how some of them make their money, and particularly games like Fortnite that are heavily aimed at a child demographic, or certainly a much younger demographic, and it concerns me. Microtransactions! Specifically, microtransactions in full-priced games. They're the ones that really grind my gears. Now, this is actually a good looping from the other one, because microtransactions can be really predatory. I'm looking at you again, Destiny. Now, at least with Destiny and the Eververse store, they were completely cosmetic. Everything was always cosmetic. I mean, they looked cool AF. The main trend I'm concerned about, of course, is the microtransactions that are affecting gameplay. Now, I think the most famous modern example of this is, of course, Star Wars Battlefront 2. You all knew that I was going to say that, but if you were willing to drop some serious dollar on it, then you were able to play as Darth Vader or Darth Sidious, and from there, you were just able to own everyone on the battlefield, and all because you were willing to pay more than them. Now, obviously, they did fix Star Wars Battlefront 2 under an immense amount of public and governmental pressure. They done goofed on that one. Why can't we go back to the days when... Why did I do this? Why can't we go back to the days when new skins and things and cosmetics were actually locked behind either cheat codes or actual achievements? Weird, esoteric things that you had to do in the game. I don't know, maybe I'm just being nostalgic for a time that's passed, but... yeah, my issue with these is that they can get really... they verge on predatory. Now, all of this is a great lead-in to the next one. Season passes. Now, season passes are genuinely the only reason I'm actually not going to talk about loot boxes, because they have largely replaced loot boxes. Now, this again mostly happened after Star... This again mostly happened after... This one mostly happened after Star Wars Battlefront 2. Now, they effectively replaced loot boxes and perform the same role as them. You level up and gain something each time you level up, but at least this time it's not random, it's not gambling. You can actually see what you're going to get, which is better. However, you're still buying a full-priced game and then paying more money to get the cool stuff in it. And again, a lot of the time this stuff is cosmetic, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's things like a 2 times XP bonus or something of that nature. It's not much, but it is still giving you an advantage over somebody who doesn't want to pay money or can't afford to pay that money. You know, for some people, the full price game is expensive enough as it is. Now, I do want to point out that these are infinitely better than loot boxes. My issue comes with some of these games can be really aggressive in promoting them, and they sometimes lock a lot of stuff behind these season passes and behind that veil, and they can be extremely aggressive in trying to get you to buy it every time you complete a match or every time you complete some sort of a race or whatever the point is in game. And that's what I don't like about it, that they can be quite forceful with it. This is a trend I'm worried about. I don't think it's an issue particularly at the moment, but I'm concerned where it might go. Star Wars Battlefront 2 is a great example of how greedy some publishers can get, and I'm worried where they might go and what they might try and exploit next. Exclusive pre-order content. Now, let's be honest, pre-orders are pretty weird. We effectively pay for something that doesn't actually exist yet, and we only have the developer and the publisher's word that it does exist or that it's actually going to be any good. Now, to entice you to this, they give you special stuff. But honestly, these days, most pre-order bonuses are pretty bad, or honestly just plain weird. Go check out my last video that I did, where I actually looked into this topic a lot more. There are some really weird and screwed up things that developers have sent out. I'll put a link in the corner now. Head on over there if you want some more info on the weird side of this trope. But the worst one for me that I want to discuss today is platform exclusive content. So a great example being the recent Avengers game, Spider-Man, possibly the most popular Avengers character, was locked to the PS4 exclusive. Why? Because Sony nailed a contract. It's so frustrating. And another one that really gets me is the Epic Games Store, where they have that 12-month exclusivity deal, which effectively turns into a monopoly. Because if you want, say, Assassin's Creed Valhalla was the recent one I got stung on, you can only get it from there, legitimately at least. And they can charge what they want for it then. But you can't argue that because there's nowhere else to buy it from, there's no competition. In general, I'm not much of a fan of these exclusivity deals and exclusive pre-orders and whatnot. I'm genuinely concerned about where that one might go. Because are we going to end up in a situation where the Epic Games Store gets 24 months? I feel, honestly, that's just going to lead to a rise in piracy. And I'm not sure that's good for anyone. An honourable mention here to loot boxes! Now, I did say that due to season passes I wouldn't actually be discussing this because there was no need, but I changed my mind and it's my video, so listen, when you've got actual world leaders and governmental bodies discussing the morality, the ethics, and the legality of your game mechanics, you're done goofed. So what do when all this is happening? You panic. The worst was EA. They actually had to delay almost the entire lineup anyway by up to 6 or 12 months to remove all of the loot box mechanics, because clearly the entire lineup was based around it. Most studios actually then self-censored, and they removed all of their loot boxes before governmental bodies such as the EU or individual countries could actually rule on the legality of them. The reason that they decided to do this was because it is gambling. There is no way around it, because you didn't know what you were going to get and it was just a loot pool and you had to pay money. It was gambling. And a lot of these games were directly aimed at children. So it's gambling for kids. And that is not acceptable under any circumstance. I mean, I think we've all heard the stories. I'll put some on screen now. About how children spent thousands, sometimes tens of thousands. They couldn't have done that if it wasn't for the very addictive properties of loot boxes. I myself, as I say, was trapped by the Eververse store in Destiny and actually Rocket League as well. So a couple of years ago, I was actually genuinely very concerned about this trend and where it was heading. It allowed children to gamble and honestly actively encouraged it, which is probably the worst part. And I, plus my wallet, are very thankful that they've gone. All thanks to the greed of a certain publisher. Those are some of the trends I'm worried about in gaming. Now, none of them are grave, none of them particularly bad, but they could get to that stage, and that's what I'm worried about. And I feel there's something that people should be aware of and they should keep an eye on. Another goal of this video, of course, was to just give you a little bit of information so that should you need to discuss this in the future, you at least now know and you can identify them, you can talk about them, and at least have a bit of a better knowledge base to start a discussion. Because some of these aren't necessarily bad by their very nature. But that's it from me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching if you got this far. I really do appreciate it. It's my first one with the new setup and the new lights, which I think you've spotted a couple of times with my glasses. I'm trying to avoid that. But if you've gotten this far, it's great. Thank you so much. If you could consider please giving the video a like, that would be fantastic. I would really appreciate it. Or even better, a subscribe if you've enjoyed it and you want to see more of my content. If you want to see more of my content right now, you'll be able to see 2 videos suggested on screen here and here. The one on this side is my latest video, and the one on this side will be a suggestion from YouTube. But as I say, thank you so much. You stay safe out there, and I'll see you next time.